episode of Inside SFPS. My name is Cody Donarski, Public Information Officer with Santa Fe Public Schools, and today I am setting a podcast first. Today I am speaking with a living, walking angel on this planet, Miss Mary Louise Romero. How are you today?
I am doing awesome. Thank you for, that's a really big introduction. I don't know if I could live up to that, but thank you for the compliment. That's a huge compliment.
It's so true, though. Everyone I speak to, I heard nothing but incredible things about you when I started with the district. I wasn't with the district very long, and then pandemic hit, and everyone was always like, Mary Louise Romero, Mary Louise Romero. Oh, she's the greatest. She's so sweet. She's the best. I never got a chance to meet you, and then I finally got a chance to meet you, and you lived completely up to the hype. You are one of my favorite, not even people in the district. You are one of my favorite human beings that walk this earth. I am so lucky to know you, so lucky to call you a friend and a colleague, and I am so excited for this episode. I think your story is so incredible, and the work that you do is really amazing. So we'll get into it. Are you a native of Santa Fe or New Mexico? Where are you from?
I am from Santa Fe. I graduated from Santa Fe High School. I actually attended college in Santa Fe as well. But before I talk about me, I just want to honor the fact that every time I'm in your presence, you make me better and you make whoever you're interviewing better. And I just want that to be recognized.
Thank you. That means a lot to me. So you went to Santa Fe Public Schools. Did you go to any of the elementary schools in Santa Fe Public Schools?
No. I actually went to private school. I went to a Catholic school from 1st through 8th grade. And so I started at Santa Fe High halfway through my freshman year.
Oh, so you joined pretty late into, how was that for you? Because I know a lot of times that transition into high school can be some of the hardest. So what was that like for you?
It was really hard because I came from a classroom with maybe 15 students. And one of the challenges that I faced in elementary as well as in middle school is actually being born deaf. I am profound deaf from my right ear, and then I have limited hearing in my left ear. And so I also was challenged with a speech impediment. And so until I was 10 years old, everybody that was my teacher, was my mentor, thought that what was going on for me was that it was the speech impediment, until I actually got a hearing test when I was 10 years old. And that was the first time that I was beginning to understand what it meant when a doctor tells you that you have no serviceable hearing in one ear. I didn't know what that meant because all you know is what you have, right? Mm. And so I was blessed enough to have a mother that reminded me that there was going to be people in my education or in my life that were going to limit who I was as a human being and maybe place labels that didn't deserve to be placed, not only on me, but on a lot of people for saying, I'm deaf, right? And my mom shared with me as a 10-year-old that I had a special gift. And my gift was that I could listen from my heart. And I really believe that today, in every part of my life and everything that I do, that gift that she gave me inspires me to listen from my heart and to teach others to listen from theirs.
I think that's so spot on, because I think in a way, the best way to describe it is I can't think of a better person to do what they do than you. And it takes such a special person with such a special skill set to be able to take the burden of so many people and listen and take their burden from them and allow them to release. And then you carry that burden with you. So being able to listen from your heart, I think describes everything perfectly. And I don't want to get too far ahead on everything because I know you've had such an extensive career and you've done so much. But do you think that hearing that at such a young age kind of allowed you to start thinking about what you wanted to do? Like, did that kind of carry on to what you had wanted to do, in your career? Or when you went to college, what did you think that you were going to do?
You know what? Thank you for recognizing that. And yes, absolutely. When I was a little girl, I had some incredible nuns that were my teachers. And so I always would tell my mother, Mom, I want to be a nun when I grow up. Like, seriously. Yeah. And I know we can chuckle about it because I am married and I didn't become a nun. But I think that my mom really geared me by telling me, I think what you love about the nuns is they help you. What you love about them is they care about you. What you love about them is they want to see you grow and they help you. And you want to be a helper. And if you want to help others, you don't have to be a nun to do that. You can do a lot of things. Like you could be a social worker, you could be a teacher, you could be. And one of the things that I think inspires me to be the best version of me is to see that other people are not perfect either. And when you can see people's perfections when they can't, it allows us to together take off our masks and see people for the human and the good that they are, even when they can't see their good. And so it really did shape me to wanting to be a servant. I want to serve others. I want to be a good person so that I can make a positive difference in the world. And so in college, I had a counselor that directed me to go into IT. I kid you not. It was hard for me because I took a whole semester of school doing something I absolutely I wasn't invested in it. I knew that this wasn't what I wanted to do. It wasn't helping anybody. It was sitting in front of a computer. I love people. And so I was cheating myself out by following somebody else's lead instead of really soul searching in my own heart to do what was right for me. And so after that, I knew that I needed to go into a field where I could really touch the lives of others. This is what I really believe. So my mom had a PhD in unconditional love. So think about that. Having a mother that you can look up to that saw the world as equals, that nobody was better than anybody else. So one of the values that she taught me was to be an egalitarian. And that for me meant that I could treat a homeless person just as respectful as I would treat the president because we're all equal. Those values being instilled in me really fostered who I strive to be every day. And I want to have a PhD in unconditional love. I want to be that person that can see the good in others. And imagine that I get to do that every single day.
Watching you work is like watching a professor at Harvard or MIT or Berkeley or any of these top, whatever people perceive as top universities. Watching the work that you do is incredible. I do think you have your PhD in unconditional love. And I think that it shows with the way that your students interact with you, that they look to you when we walk around Santa Fe High campus or when we're at Capitol or anything like that. Very infrequently do we pass a student that you don't know, that you don't say hello to, that you don't say, are you being at your best today? It is truly remarkable to see the impact that you leave on these students as they walk through their day, whether they walk around campus or whatnot. So when you graduated college, what was your first kind of job in the workforce doing, your social, I don't want to call it social work, but your kind of serving of people?
Thank you for asking that question. So the first job that I had was I ran an alternative to detention program through juvenile probation. So if you can just imagine the Santa Fe Public Schools or the schools of Pojoaque, I was working with students that had been thrown away, literally missed out on an opportunity to have a relationship with teachers or anybody at school. And so I was meeting these students that were pending adjudication. And when I would ask them, who is your favorite teacher and why? And they would talk about their second grade teacher, but now they're in 8th grade, right? They're in 7th grade. And they weren't connecting with anyone. So I always had this idea in my head that if I could help students find a person at school or find more than one person at school or in any place that they were in the community, that we could help change that kid's life. And so I always believed that if we continue to invest in them, if we continue to plant seeds of hope, that they would start having hope. And sure enough, being in that realm of work, I spent probably 20 years of my career doing that job. And so instead of kids being incarcerated, they would give them an opportunity to go home and sleep in their own bed. And I would work with a family as a whole. I would help parents set some guidelines and raise the bar. And some of the hardest things that I had to tell parents is that, when we turn a blind eye to misbehavior, when little Johnny's not at his best and we pretend like we didn't see it, what we're really doing is sending a silent message that we don't love little Johnny enough to hold him accountable. And how can you and I that have something in common, that care about little Johnny, that love him, how can we raise the bar together? And what I found was that families wanted that, but they just didn't know how to do it. And I was a novice at the beginning of my career. I was learning how to do this. And sometimes I was walking with families that were enabling their kids. But lo and behold, when I started to find my way, I started to have the vocabulary to help parents to raise the bar for their kids. And what I noticed in that is that if I could help a parent raise the bar for their child, I also had to help the child take responsibility for whatever got in the way of them being at their best, of what got them into the system. And so together with using parents, or sometimes it was a single parent and their child, we would have these conversations that were restorative, that were an opportunity to learn from our past, not live in it. And so what I noticed is that parents were starting to recognize, like, I'm raising the bar for little Johnny, and now look, he has B's and C's. And imagine if I continue to do this, maybe he's going to get A's and B's if I set a rewards program, right? And so with that, my dream was always to have a job where I could help kids before they entered that system. And what I learned in working with teachers and with my clients, that if we could create a safe space at school where students could come and recognize what got in the way of them being at their best when they had a hiccup, and not always throw them away, not always suspend them, but give them an opportunity to make people whole again, to recognize what they did, to take responsibility, and then to learn what their values are. To remind them that when they were little kids, they were respectful, they were kind, they were loyal, they were loving. And that if we could bring that back to the table, that we could help these kids be the best version of themselves.
I think that's so powerful, because even going back to when I was in school, even as far back as elementary school, you had one kid who, acted up a little bit in class, and they got labeled as, a class clown or as a bad kid or whatever it is. And it's so hard to shake that label. And I think a lot of the work that you do, and I think is one of the most important things, is you kind of break down those labels, because they really are hard to shake. When you get labeled as a bad kid, it sticks with you everywhere you go. And as teachers, you hear, oh, little Johnny's coming through. He was tough on Miss So-and-so, so he's going to be tough on me. And now you're already carrying that stigma. How hard is it to kind of break those labels that these kids have, whether it's with parents, with other students, with school staff? I think that is so important, that these labels can really stick with students and affect how they come to school or go home and stuff like that.
I am so grateful that you are talking about this, because we don't talk about it enough. And so we have educators that are incredible, right? We have administrators that are incredible, but they show up to work with what they have. And all they know about that student is what they've done wrong. And so when I work with administrators, with teachers, they are so coachable. And I just want to say that I feel so fortunate to be in this district, because when I bring in a student, and after I've had a restorative conversation with that student, and I ask them the hard questions, like, what did you do that wasn't you at your best? Who do you think your behavior affected? And what do you think that we need to do to put that right? How can we make right our wrong? And how can we teach adults that you're that really brave person that stepped up to the plate and took responsibility for your actions? And really what's happening, and this is what I tell kids, is that you're teaching the teachers that you are a young man or you are a young lady, and you're not that little punk anymore. And of course, it's important to say that little boys can't take responsibility, young men can. Little girls can't take responsibility, but young ladies can. And there's not a human being on this earth that doesn't want to be that young lady and that young man, right? The labels that have been placed with them, they don't deserve. They have to have an opportunity to change those labels and for people to see their value. And so my luck, and I'm so fortunate, because every student that I've had the opportunity to work with to make right their wrong, whether it's a conflict with other students or with an adult, those adults have welcomed me and that student with open arms. And I think little by little, because of the culture that we're creating within the Santa Fe Public Schools, we're making a change. We're making a difference. We're improving. We are letting go of the school to prison pipeline, and we're recognizing the gifts that our kids bring every day. And teachers want to embrace them, but they need to see it. And I get to be that person that helps them.
We shot a video not too long ago, and we spoke with kids who you have worked with, both here and at Capitol. And I know we have Andrea, who does the littles, and then we have now Mariah, who does the middle schoolers. And it's really exciting to see the program expand because it all looks so different. And I think that's really important to mention, that restorative justice as a practice isn't a one size fits all. Every approach is different. Every approach is unique. The circles that Andrea does at the elementary schools, I say it all the time. I am so impressed with the openness that these kids speak about. Hey, I'm having a hard day. I woke up, my mom was kind of, in a bad mood, so it put me in a bad mood. But then I came to school and I saw my friends and everything was okay. That openness and vulnerability that some of these kids share, 3rd, 4th, 5th grade, is incredible. I would never once think about sharing something about that in myself. And I say it all the time. I was filming at Ramirez Thomas, and it's in the video. So if you haven't seen the Restorative Justice video, go to the SFPS YouTube and check it out. It's really powerful, and it really just allows you to learn a little bit more about what restorative justice is. But there's a little girl in that video, and I don't want to call her a little girl because she's probably more of a young woman. She's probably in 5th or 6th grade now. And they're going around in the circle, and she's talking about how she suffered from anxiety and depression since she was little, and that she used to go home every night after school and sit in her bedroom and cry. And ever since she started doing the restorative justice circles with Andrea, it's the happiest she's ever been in her life. And I edited the video. I've watched it 100 times, and it still makes me tear up to think that a 12-year-old girl was able to identify that about her and then be able to share it with all of her classmates. It's so impressive when you see what these kids take away from and when I say I mean you and Andrea and Mariah, that they feel that they can share that, hey, I used to go home and cry every single night. But now, since we're in this circle and we've been sharing about us, it's the happiest I've ever been. It makes me speechless because no 12-year-old girl should have to feel like that. But it also made me so proud. And I have a 2-year-old, and I would be so proud of her if she came home and was like, hey, Dad, I've been feeling this way. But school's been doing something that is making me feel so much better. And I just think it's so powerful, and I don't even know how to transition to this because it...
Can I say it lends to safety? So there's emotional, physical, and mental safety. And when we feel safe, we are more likely to step out of our comfort zone and into the learning zone so that we can share those things. And what's so beautiful is that when you can create a safe space for a whole class, that every student in that class can step up to the plate and feel safe enough that nobody's going to blame or shame them. And that's what restorative justice is about. For the people listening to this podcast, there's someone out there that has felt this before, that has experienced feeling a sense of non-belonging. And imagine that we can go in and create that safe space for every student to know that they're seen, they belong, they're cared about, and they matter. And the minute that we turn a blind eye to seeing that mental illness in a classroom, that anxiety and all of those things that get in the way of us learning and being at our best, we are failing if we don't address it. So yes, sometimes it's hard for educators to hear those things, but if we don't know, how can we serve our kids, right? And so restorative justice allows and it lends for teachers to learn about social emotional learning. It helps students recognize that they have a gift And that gift is showing up every day in the class when they show up to school. Imagine it's responding to truancy. It's responding to whatever it is that holds us back from learning math, from learning English. If we feel safe, we can learn. And when we don't, it's hard to learn. So when we have people in this world that are in their 20s and they have 20s, 30s, or 40s and have students that are coming to the Santa Fe Public Schools, imagine that their experience is also a part of what their daughters and sons are feeling. And so for us to be able to be an extension of their family when they come to school, that's what we look for. We want little Johnny, we want little Mariah to feel like they matter. And we are going to let them know that you belong in this class. This is your school and we are your school and you are part of our family. And if we don't do that, then we're not learning.
And they have, I think the other thing too that's really powerful that you see as well is it allows kids to see that they're not alone in anything they might feel, whether it's as simple, I know, oh God, what was the game? I don't want to call it a game.
Who shares this with me?
Yeah, who shares this with me? Who shares this with me? Have you ever, had a brother take something from you and you get really mad before and all the kids raise their hand and move to one side of the room? And it allows them to have shared experiences when you thought, hey, I'm the only one that feels this. I'm the only one that has a brother that takes something from me or a sibling that takes something from me. And it kind of gives them we share something. You and I now have one thing in common. We're not complete strangers. We're not so different after all. We have shared experiences. We have shared feelings. We feel the same things. We are one and the same in a way. When you left, how did you end up at Santa Fe Public Schools? How did you kind of bring your work to Santa Fe Public Schools?
So when I was still working for juvenile probation, there were a lot of students. When I would come to visit my clients, every day I would go to the middle and high schools and some elementaries when I had clients there. And I would see students in the office sitting there because they were sitting there for discipline. And I would make sure that I would reach every single one of those kids and tell them that I saw them. And I would always try to inspire them to recognize it when you're not at your best. If you can take responsibility for it, adults will listen to you and they will be willing to share the gift of listening, right? And so I started doing a lot of work at Santa Fe High. The principal at the time would allow me to bring two students that were in trouble. I would bring them in and I would have restorative conversations with them. And then I would bring them back to the principal and they would tell the principal, this is what I learned and this is what I'll do differently. And the principal started buying into the fact that, wow, just a minute ago, they were really upset with me and now they've totally calmed down. They're taking responsibility. There was a change in them, right? And so Sue O'Brien, who runs the Office of Student Wellness, when she became the director, she recognized that there was a component missing with the Office of Student Wellness. And she wrote a grant, and I applied for this job because I had been doing this work for 26 years. Actually, before I worked for juvenile probation, I actually worked for a company that traveled around the country doing team building. And I learned the restorative justice work through that company. And so I got to work with NFL teams, NBA teams, Fortune 500 companies, and we would bring people together to create a culture of care. So with that experience and then taking that to juvenile justice and then having this opportunity to do it at the Santa Fe Public Schools, it was like a dream come true because this is the job I've always wanted. So 6 years ago when they posted the position, I interviewed for the position and I was the lucky one to get the job. And since then, because of the work and because there was only one of me, we've been able to add a middle and an elementary restorative justice coordinator. And so I'm still training our middle school coordinator, but she's doing a phenomenal job. And I want parents that are listening to this to know that there is a resource that they can reach out to. Not only do principals give us referrals, we get self-referrals from students all the time. We want our students and their child to believe that there's an extension of their family within the Santa Fe Public Schools. And we're doing that every single day.
And this doesn't have to be for parents listening as well. It doesn't have to be because they got in trouble. It doesn't have to be reactionary. It can be proactive if, there's something going on where they just need someone to talk to, or I think there's a misconception almost that, you only work with bad kids, the kids that are getting in trouble. And I know that's not the case, but I think that's some of the perception is, if they're in restorative justice or they're working with Mary Louise or Andrea or Mariah, that they're bad kids. And I know that's far from the truth. And that kind of goes back to the labeling of being labeled as something that you're not.
Can I share a little bit about what else we work with? Because I feel like it's so important for parents to know that we are a resource. So if you have a child who is not feeling as part of their school, if they're having an issue with maybe a teacher, or they're having issues with just even wanting to come to school, we want to be part of the solution with you. We are walking this walk with every mom and dad that is feeling alone, because not only do our kids feel alone, but sometimes parents feel alone because they're not sure what's going on with a student. Oftentimes, a kid doesn't want to come to school because maybe they haven't been treated with respect. And so for some reason, all of us have a gift of being able to speak with kids. And kids tell us, they're like, well, when I go to my second period, there's a girl that doesn't like me and I feel like she's shaming me, or whatever that is. And we never tell the person that they're in conflict with that she told or he told on them. We bring that other person in and we give them a safe space. How are things going at school? Do you get along with everybody? Is there anybody that you don't get along with? And can we create a safe space for you so we can talk about what's getting in the way of us being at our best? Because you deserve to feel like you're part of your class. You deserve to feel like that you belong to us at school. Kids want a sense of belonging. And when they don't have that, they don't want to go to school. So whatever is going on with a child, if we could be part of the solution for that family, if we can have a conversation with mom and child about what motivates them and what they want to do when they grow up, let's have those conversations. Don't feel alone.
And you're the easiest person on the planet to talk to and to open up with, because it really is, you see when kids walk in here, it's almost like when they walk through that door, they almost have a weight come off of their shoulders, and that they feel that this office is a safe space for them to open up, to tell you about their problems, and know that you're going to listen, that you're going to hear them, you're going to see them, and that you're going to respect them. And I think when kids and even adults know that they're being seen, they're being heard, and they're being respected, you can, I don't want to say let your guard down, but you can open up and really be vulnerable. And that's how you make progress. And I think from some of the stories that you've told and some of the things that I've heard from working with some of the kids that you've worked with, it's so impactful hearing these kids explain very difficult situations to say, I was not being nice to this boy or girl, and we had a fight, we had a disagreement, we had an argument, and then we came in, we talked about it. And I think that is one of the key things that happens is they have a conversation with someone they might have a disagreement with.
Can I talk a little bit about, so when students come in to my office or with the middle or elementary restorative justice person, one of the things that we think about is every human being on this planet has armor that we've built to protect our hearts. So let's just think about that. Whether you're a parent or if you're a student, we build this armor because something has happened to us in our life that has really gotten in the way of us feeling like we're whole. And so this office and us working with students allows them the opportunity to take off that armor and to recognize that behind that armor is someone that deserves to be loved. And that those masks that we wear are to protect the real us from being seen. And I want students to know that they don't have to wear a mask, that they can be themselves, and that we love them for who they are, and that we're here to guide them and coach them to be the best version of themselves. And I always think if we could help every single person that we meet get from where they are to where they need to be with seeing their gifts and recognizing and seeing them as good human beings, and separating them from their behavior. I love you, but I don't have to love what you did. And I think parents can really hear that. We get mad at our kids, but we still love them. And so when they just know that we're mad and we forget to say, but I love you, we cheat them out. And so in this office, yes, they tell us, you know what, I wasn't at my best with this kid. And I know that you wouldn't be proud of me if I told you what I did, but I want to make things right. And students feel safe enough to say that. And if we can imagine if this world felt safe enough to make right their wrong, can you imagine what we would be like?
It'd be incredible. And I go back to, I think of something that you said just now, when we had the retreat this summer with, various members of Santa Fe Public Schools this summer. And you had a restorative justice section where we came around and we sat in a circle. And it was so powerful to me because within 5 minutes, I had opened up to a person that I had just met. I had just learned her name 2 minutes earlier. And her and I were both sharing very emotional things with each other and stuff that I probably haven't shared with close friends. But here's a person that I just met, just learned their name, and I am sharing personal things about myself. And we were in a space that we can open up. And I knew that the conversation that her and I had, that she was listening to me, she was hearing what I said. It was between her and I. We weren't going to go, oh, so-and-so feels like this and so-and-so feels like that. We weren't going to go and gossip. And it was so incredible to see every person in that circle was impacted. And I think the biggest takeaway is you just need someone to listen. Yes. And see you. We looked each other in the eyes and we listened. We didn't interrupt each other. We just heard each other. And can take that away from our workplace and take it home. Students take what they learn here and become better children, become better siblings, become better, nieces and nephews and community members. And I think that's really where, we're not just fixing the problem quotes in schools. We're fixing it at a human level.
Absolutely. And you know what I think needs to be said is that, students can teach every adult if we give them the platform to. And so when they come in here, I will always be willing to be a student of our students. And if we don't, we're not going to ever serve them the way they need to be served. And so when a student comes in here and they share their story, they're an expert in that story, but we get to guide them, coach them, and direct them into recognizing what they could do to make right with people, to make people whole, and then they can be whole. So if you can just imagine if today we got off this podcast and we recognized if we fell short with someone and we were brave enough to go to those people or that person and say, I wasn't at my best with you yesterday. And I'm better than that. And we're better than that together. And so I want to start fresh. And we want our kids to be able to do that. We want them to have a fresh start every day. And we don't want to have to live with them in the past. Let's move forward. Let's be the best version of ourselves together.
I love you so much. You are such an inspiration. I am so grateful to call you a friend. I am so grateful to have spent time with you in this office and to just get to know you as a person and the work that you do. To wrap up, I'm going to ask you the question that I've asked every guest on the podcast to end the episode. What is the best piece of advice that you ever received from a teacher or a mentor?
The best piece of advice that I received, and it was from, and I could call my mom a mentor because she instilled the best values in me, is this: people won't remember what car you drove, what clothes you wore, how much money you had, or what house you lived in, but they will remember how you treated them. So be good to people, be the best version of you, and make a difference in the world.